I don't know how much of my story you knew before you invited me to be a part of the foreword to this book, which we're talking a lot about right now. And we'll share the title and the subtitle and all of those things connected to your company, She'll Rise. But like, there's so many layers of connectivity with being a wife, with being a mom, feeling like the world was just caving in around you. And yet you had all these blessings around you.
Yeah.
Right. And this situation with me also led both of us to the feet of Jesus. And there's just, how does that work? It's like, God is that good. Is really the ultimate answer. And so to evangelize on the other side of that and to vocalize what happened and be so candid about it. I know this book, like mine, was like, it's your first, like, okay, world, here's what happened. And so you've shared it in a lot of communities already, but a book is a whole nother level of access point that people need this. They need this so desperately, because I know that people are depraved. And I know that there are women fighting this problem day in and day out, but there's so much shame around it. And it's shame, not just for the person walking through it. We wouldn't probably even look at it as shame. We would look at it as selfishness, right? Because it felt good and we're fine and we're whatever, like something is owed to us. There's like all these weird mental things that transpire. But it's the people, it's the family who is shamed, but not my wife, not my mom, not and my babies were little, so they didn't have the conceptualization of anything, but not my daughter, not my best friend, not my owner, not my business partner, like all these thoughts of shame. So no one goes anywhere and does anything, and they just hope and wish and enable. Right.
It's really, it's evidence of the bystander effect. Like in front of you, this horrific thing is happening and everything in you is telling you do something, but you're paralyzed and you just stand there like, what do I do? Right. What do I do? And you hit the nail on the head with the shame. It's like, if I speak up on her behalf, now I'm revealing my shame. If I tell someone about this, now I'm exposing them to my shame. And even though this isn't mine, we've impacted our family in a way that this has now become part of their story too.
Yep.
And it was my daughter at one of my She'll Rise events when she said, Mom, is it okay if I speak? And I'm like, absolutely. And she's sharing about how much she has grown by coming to support me at the She'll Rise events. And she's my right-hand girl. Like, I don't have to think about it. She's got it. She knows what to do. And she says, I've been growing. I've been challenged. Like, I'm seeing a difference in me. Like, I'm standing up here speaking to you today. I used to hide behind my mom. Now I ask, can I step up and speak? And it's like, but one of the most profound things that she laid out that day was, and she was crying when she said, it's not just my mom's story. It's my story too. Yep. And I thought, that broke me. That broke me. Because then it's like, oh gosh, all these years I think I'm hiding it. I'm doing such a great job. I'm like Pinterest mom. And, everybody's like, I'm hiding behind the blessings. I'm hiding behind the thin figure. I'm hiding behind the big smile. I'm hiding behind the having it all together. This facade that nobody.
How high can I raise my hands?
Right. Right. I mean, if I was overweight, people may be like, she's got something going on. But I chose an eating disorder. Yeah. I chose things that kept me in a certain look that people didn't want to dig. They didn't want to ask. And all of a sudden, here she is. This is part of my story, too. And that was profound. It wrecked me, and it was profound.
Yeah. And how old is she?
She's now 27. She just turned 27.
Wow. Well, first off, you do not look old enough to have a 27. I was thinking you were going to say like 14, like 27. Yeah. That's incredible. And I am now similar to you, building my life on this testimony, because that rock foundation rather than rock bottom, because if you get to rock bottom, that's a beautiful place to be. And that's why I don't carry shame. There's no condemnation there. There's no judgment there. It's a place for you to rise, as your business has been built off of that. And mine has been too. I think of it as a legacy business, because it's something that truly is going to have generational impact, and how people integrate and how our kiddos get to serve through it and become inside of it is pretty beautiful and magnificent. But it took your boldness that the Lord planted inside of you to say, okay, now you have to share your testimony. Now it's time to go. So talk about like the transition from this place of healthiness and wholeness to the emotion that you feel when you say, I'll never leave a woman behind. Talk about the She'll Rise movement and what that has done and how you've kind of let that blossom as a business in this season.
When I was active in my addiction, I was a business and executive coach, and I was doing really great things. Ironically, working with hospitals and physicians and all these people that should have been like, hey, are you on something? But, and I kept seeing that there was a need for something specific for women. So Rise was born. And Rise at that point was focused on business women, career women, women who were working in male-dominated industries and just needed to understand that they deserved a seat at the table. You are worthy. Your voice does matter. There is value in who you are and what you represent. And you don't have to be flashy with your clothing and flirtatious and all of those things. And it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing. But then fast forward, after the failed suicide attempt, in that moment when God reached down for my hand, that was when She'll Rise was born. And the tagline is, if you believe in her, she'll rise. So now I wanted all women. I didn't care if you were a stay-at-home mom, if you were divorced 12 times, if you were an only child, I didn't care. I wanted all women and all of each of the women that came because I wanted them to experience this kind of wholeness, this kind of healing. And so we were on our way back from a family trip from Disney, and I'm reading a book, and I talk about this in my book, the Twizzler commercial, where he's like, just kind of like pondering and looking off. And he was like, why can't I wear white after Labor Day? And it was kind of like that for me. I was like, I want to start a book club. And my husband's like, do it. And I'm like, no, nobody will come. I'll put it out there. I'm not going to do it. And he kept encouraging me, start the book club. What's the worst that's going to happen? You put it out there, nobody comes, or you put it out there and people do come.
Yeah.
Well, in August, 23 women showed up that night. Wow. And remember, this was the first time that I stood in front of a group of people, raw, honest, unfiltered. I looked through them and shared my story.
Wow.
And then God said, make eye contact. And in that moment, so many strongholds were broken because the lies I believed were not supported. They were crushed. They didn't judge me. They didn't criticize me. They didn't have that look of sin shock, on their face. What I saw were tears and emotion and submission and slouching and surrendering and me too. And all of a sudden it was like, okay, this is starting to make sense to me. All of that in this moment is starting to click. He's using it for his purpose. I've been anointed for this assignment. And even though I deviated from what he called me to do all those years, now he's going to use every bit of it in a way that I never could have impacted women